Today we're going to take a walk in the forest. Hi everyone, welcome back. I am very excited today because we're going to talk about one of my favorite books, perhaps even my favorite book, certainly a book that I have a lot of passion for. That is Jean-François Beauchemin's Le Jour de Corneille. A working translated title is Day of the Crows. What can I tell you about this book? I discovered it some years ago when I was going through a reading slump, and a very dear friend of mine who at the time was working in a bookstore, she just put it in my hands and she said, "C'est un bijou." It's a gem. And really, that was the best possible introduction to the book that I could have. So I would actually advise you to stop watching the video, just turn it off, go get yourself a copy of this book and read it. That is if you read in French. Unfortunately, this book is yet to be translated, which is one of the reasons that I wanted to talk about it today, because I am in the process of translating it and in the process of querying publishers in case they would like to come on this amazing adventure with me. So Jean-François Beauchemin, our author, is a very established author in Quebec. He has published more than 20 different books, including poetry collections. His latest, I believe, is Le Roitelet, which is a beautiful book about a couple of brothers. Le Roitelet is a kind of bird. I don't know, I'm assuming this one is in the process of translation, but I haven't found an English version that's been published yet. I also have here a copy of one of his autobiographical works, La Fabrication de l'Aube, which has been published as Assembling the Dawn, translated by Jessica Moore. If you'd like to check that out, it is rather beautiful. His work is luminous, basically. I think that's the main word that comes to mind when I think about his work. He's won, a number of prizes, and he's just a nice guy. You can tell from his writing, and I have the privilege of speaking to him via Skype a couple of times, so I very much appreciate. But the Day of the Crows is a very special book. It's something that stands out in his overall work, and I think the reason it stands out and the reason it hasn't been translated yet are probably linked, but maybe we'll get into that later. First of all, as an introduction to the book, it's such a difficult book to describe and to do justice to, which is why I'm like, just read it. It's only 150 pages and it'll enrich your life. But I thought I'd read to you a couple of just a few lines from some reviews that it had in French when it came out, so which I've translated quickly myself. Day of the Crows is an outlandish love story, a dazzling, incendiary freak of literature. Here, horror flirts with grace. The Day of the Crows is both dark and enchanting, a true literary phenomenon. The audaciousness of the language both absorbs and unsettles. The Day of the Crows is a powerful, moving, rich novel. Now, I couldn't have said it better myself. What I have said in my pitch is that Day of the Crows is a story of grief, cruelty, and survival, about the tension between civilization and wildness, about the redemptive power of words, and above all, about our human yearning for connection. So it's a real travesty, honestly, that this has not yet been published in English. It's such a beautiful book, and it's inspired many people. It's been adapted for both stage and screen. In the French-speaking world, it's sold over 40,000 copies. And it's even been the subject of several academic articles, which, don't let that put you off. It's a wonderful book. It's very rich in themes, and it's very rich in language.
Editing Alice here. In my great enthusiasm for this book, I realized I completely omitted to tell you what it's about. So just briefly, it is the story of a boy growing up in the forest, isolated from his community, completely alone with this very taciturn father who has these episodes of breaks with reality where he essentially sends his son on these crazy quests in which he risks life and limb. So not only is his childhood physically dangerous, but the father neglects him, not only not speaking to him in any kind of particularly communicative way. He says he learns language later in life because his father is so much not a man of words, but also he's completely deprived of love, and this is the heart of his quest, is to find love wherever it might be hiding, and to have human connection and make sense of the world, which he eventually does through the power of words.
My favorite thing about this book is the language. It's the style. It's the voice. It's difficult to describe. I heard one critic call it Rabelaisien. So it has a kind of feel of Old French to it, but it's not Old French. Actually, it's Bourgeois playing with the language in a way that is really interesting and really whimsical. And this play is part of what lightens the work. Like, it's poetry. He is a poet. It's a first-person narration, and the character themselves has this really idiomatic way of expressing themselves. But it's not just some literary flourish. The language is there not just to be beautiful, not just to be impressive, not just to offset the darkness of the narrative, but also it's deeply embedded in the message of the novel itself, because there is something very salutary about the fact that this character can reclaim their story through words and through their own special way of expressing themselves. I was drawn in from the very first lines. Let me read them to you. Nous logions, père et moi, au plus épais de la forêt. In the innermost depths of the forest did father and I make our home, in a wood trunk cabin afore the great beech tree. This rustic residence and all its accoutrements were fashioned by father's own hand. It was possessed of every convenience, from a rain-water barrel for our simmerings and my submersions, to a fireplace for beroasting our game and betoasting our limbs in the harsh winter frosteries. We were equipped with straw mats, a table, a pair of stoolettes, and an apothecary's alembic, wherein father would brew robustest and most inflammable spirits from the twiglets and fruits of the neighbouring juniper tree. For our repast, we seized fish from pond, and drummed a variety of nourishing beasts from lair and home, cottontails, forest fowl, chip friars, beavers, skunklings, raccoons, and deerettes. For the rest, our victuals consisted of star violet tea, teal and blackbird eggs, fairy ring fungus, roots, berries, mouselings knocked scentless by our hands, and birds of prey arteously bombarded with pebblings or expertly pierced by our arrows. Father had the knowing of all philosophy. Notions and enlightenments resided in his skull. He knew earth to be flat, and that it is set amidst the skies where heavenly bodies do circulate it as dogs on a chain. He knew that goddess moon governs the salvation of all live things, bestiary, vegetable-ish, and human. That bodily ailments can be cured through the judicious application of bloodletting and other modern remedies, and that nightmares engulf the mind marrow via the ear holes. Father could likewise uncrypt the comings and goings of the air. From treetop he espied the distant progress of gust and cyclone, thus foretelling our hazard or haven. His foot seemed guided by compass and instruments, so easily did he circulate under canopy and over path, meeting neither constraint nor disorientation. He fathomed the secrets of the heavens and the stars, and had the knowing of their reading. Thus, certain nights, when his eyes ogled the firmament, I would chance to question him on my destiny. Thus spake my voice, "Father, what did you perceive this night of what will become of me?" But father was not a man of words. I think one of the most wonderful things about this book is that it has this delicate balance of light and dark, and all of the beauty lies in that tension. It's also a book full of humanity. You really feel the sensitivity of the author to nature and to human connection. The protagonist goes on this wild and in some ways quite disturbing quest for love, but it still remains beautiful and touching. I think Bauchemin shows us the dark so that we can better appreciate the light. And I just love this book. I hope you will too. Thank you for watching. And if you do happen to be a publisher who's interested, please do contact me. My Instagram is in my bio.